All Three Beards Media podcasts originate from the Gravitate Co-working Studio, sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company.
Drop it.
Welcome back to a playoff edition, divisional round edition of the Ball Don't Lie podcast. As always, thank you to our sponsors with Gravitate Co-working Studio and Revelton Distilling Company. I'm Ted Hawley here as always, and I have one of our fearless leaders from Three Beards Media, Chris Shipley, joining me today. Chris, thanks for stepping in as Justin was having a little bit of technical issues. I think he's at a card convention or something, so I don't think his signal was very good. But thanks for joining me today, bud.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I'm sure Justin's probably got a lot better weather than we do sitting here.
I'm sure it's definitely that. I'd be shocked if you would be sticks with him. But no, I thought it'd be fun to have you come on today too, as you kind of send Justin and I some of your crazy.
I do.
Your what's the word? I'm drawing blanks already too.
Parlays and crazy little plays. Yeah.
Parlays are always really good, and you've hit quite a few you sent to us this year too. So I was like, well,
yeah.
What better time than the present to have you come on and try to hit some of this division round for us today too? So,
well, now I know what the juice feels like, man. When you're sweating and you need 10 more yards for him to throw, and then they start kneeling the ball, and you're screaming at the TV.
The sweat is so real, and especially the player props too. They get it seems like it comes down. You hit it by a half yard or yard. Vegas is crazy on all the stuff they do. It's wild how good some of those guys are that do that. Yeah. Just to recap a little bit from last week, it was kind of the tale of two people for us last week. Justin unfortunately went 0-3. My word to kind of live by in the opening round, wild card round, is I usually play a lot of the dogs. The dogs went 4-2 last week. I think 3-1 outright. And Smool did have two of the three dogs as his three plays, and unfortunately, those were the two dogs that lost. He had the Eagles, Miami, and Pittsburgh last week. He went 0-3. I went 4-1 last week. I had Houston. Miami was my only miss, and I had Green Bay, the over in the Dallas game, and the Rams +3. So hopefully I can stay hot there and get Smool back online here too. But the playoffs are off. The quarterback groups on the two sides are crazy. You got all the big name studs in the AFC with Stroud, this new rookie coming in, Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson's probably going to win the MVP. And then you flip it to the other side, and you got the exact opposite. You got Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, who both were castaways from their teams, and then all of a sudden, maybe the best quarterback in the league the second half of the year. And
oh my gosh,
Mr. Love, which I know you don't like to admit at all, but he's been playing some really good football, and that offense is humming right now.
You want to talk about some luck? Green Bay falling ass backwards into 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks at this point. It's all I can stomach, Teddy.
It is just looking. It really is looking like you got another decade plus of this stuff too. Nobody does that 3 times in a row, and
no.
This guy has got big-time arm talent. It is crazy. And he's actually kind of running LaFleur's offense, which Rodgers did not do. He checked in a lot of stuff, and they look fantastic. But their defense is suspect, so I fully expect a shootout in that game. So why don't we just kind of jump right into it with our games this weekend and kind of go through it. I'll go through the lines here quick before we get into the actual games. The Texans are at the Ravens. The Saturday games are Texans at the Ravens, and they're -9.5-point favorites. The Ravens are. The over-under is 43.5. That's the afternoon game on Saturday. The Saturday night game is Packers at 49ers. Niners are also 9.5-point favorites. The over-under is 50.5 there as well. And then it's a Sunday. The early kick is Tampa Bay at the Lions. Lions -6. The over-under is at 50. And the night game is Kansas City at the Bills -2.5. The over-under at 45.5. I'll kind of just start on that first game there. I don't have a really good feel on it. As far as the line goes, that's a lot of points. Man, the Texans looked good last week. It was time for Flacco's to run out a little bit. That's kind of why I played the Texans last week. There was just, look, I've seen Flacco's deal. He still had 8 turnovers in the 5 games that he played. The writing was kind of on the wall for him just to kind of have that kind of game. And they did. The Texans looked great, and it was a blowout. I do expect the Ravens to win this game, but 9.5 is a lot. So I'm going to stay completely away from this game, but on the line part of it all. So I don't know if you like this game at all. Smule stayed away from it as well.
I didn't play this game, but I think C.J. Stroud's fairy tale run is over. I think he's going on the road, hostile environment. Baltimore plays tough there. I actually think Baltimore's going to cover, but not confident enough that I'm going to bet it. So,
see, I'm with you on that too, and I have a teaser play at the end too, and they will be involved in that because I do expect them to win. So. Well, that's it for that. The next game I did not have on my card. The over at 50.5 with the Packers and Niners just missed for me. I'll probably be playing that, but it won't make my card. Smule did have the Niners at minus 9.5 on his card. They made his card. Look, I think it's the same type of deal here. I think the Packers, they're playing with what makes them a little scary here is they are playing with house money.
Right. They've got nothing to lose.
They already got a playoff win. They have the youngest team in the league. They just don't know any better right now. So that does make it a little scary. And look, I want Brock Purdy to win the Super Bowl this year for a lot of personal reasons on that too, just for him to get that and get it done. But look, we're Iowa State fans. We've seen the bad Brock too.
Yes.
I think that's what it would take for them to have to lose this game because I don't think that Packers defense can stop the Niners offense.
I don't either. I think that's the only thing I'm hanging my hat on is that the back end of the defense of Green Bay is so bad. And you've got Kittle and Debo and Ayuk. You've got some weapons there. I do, however, I did do a little parlay on this one. I do have Green Bay to cover just because they're just crazy enough to do it, right? Nobody thought they were going to go in there and just wax Dallas on the road. So
no, that was crazy. And it was over.
So they've shown that they can do it. And then, I threw a couple anytime touchdowns in there. Again, Green Bay's defense is their back end is suspect. Debo's going to score a touchdown, and Aaron Jones always gets a touchdown in the playoffs. So that's kind of what I took was Green Bay to cover, but a couple of anytime touchdowns, which gave me pretty good odds. But San Francisco, I just as soon lose that bet and see San Francisco just blow them out because I absolutely hate Green Bay, hate everything about them. And Purdy, you're right. Like you look at the Big 12 championship game he had, and and are the nerves going to get to him and whatever else? It doesn't look like it has this year, but I hope good Brock plays and not bad.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there too. Actually, one of my hammer plays, it's not on the cards, it's a teaser, but I do have a 7-point teaser at minus 140 with the two big favorites with San Francisco and Baltimore, both at minus 2.5. I have that hammered personally on my card, not on my card, but just a playing game. I do think both those teams are going to win by at least a field goal, so I feel pretty good about that one. I don't see an upset coming, but look, I'm with you. Like, it wouldn't shock me one bit to see Green Bay keep it to single digits.
Yep, that's what I think.
And you're talking you can get a late. San Francisco can control that game and score a meaningless dumpster touchdown with 1 minute to go and lose by 8 or 9, and it's not going to shock anybody.
Yep.
So
nope, not at all.
All right. And then for the Ravens, I did have a same game parlay for the Ravens game as well. I bought the Ravens down to -3, Gus Edwards anytime touchdown, Isaiah Likely over 37.5 yards, and the Ravens just scored over 19.5 points, and that gets you at a plus 360 for a same game parlay there too. So I think if you're on DraftKings too, I think they're giving out some bonuses for some.
They are, yeah. So I always grab those bonuses. Yeah, I grab those bonuses all the time, man. They're awesome. They sucker me right in.
DraftKings does a really good job with that.
Yeah.
I also did play before the playoffs last year, so I don't know if they still have these out there or not. I should have checked before we hopped on, but I took Debo to lead all the playoffs in receiving yards, and I got like plus 550 odds for that. So I don't know if they're still having the playoff stuff available for that. Those before they kick that, those could be off. But I thought I was getting pretty good odds for Debo on that. So if that's still available, think about that as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all.
Just because I expect them to go to the Super Bowl. They didn't play a game last week. But
right, that's what I was wondering.
The Super Bowl is why I like the odds there. I'm just not sure about any other team.
Yep.
So, all right, moving on to the early game there, unless you got something else with San Fran.
Nope. Go ahead.
Moving on the early game there with Tampa at Detroit. I love – Smule and I are both Baker Mayfield fans. I was on Tampa last week. I scratched him off my card last minute. I was because Smule had me kind of convinced the Eagles a little bit. I did end up playing Tampa Bay. We love Baker. Yeah. This has been a redemption story for Baker. They got him on the cheap. And I think the only way he doesn't get a long-term contract, even if it's not from Tampa, it's somebody else, is if he absolutely comes out and has a dumpster game. That's the only way that can – stop that from happening. I think he's playing good enough football. I don't see that happening. However, I think the win Detroit had last week over the Rams was a bigger deal than people think. They didn't cover. Yeah. The Rams did cover for me, but the Rams have been playing really good football the last 6 or 7 weeks. That was a huge win. Mm-hmm. And I just think that at Detroit, they kind of got that win finally under their belt. I just kind of see this as maybe the end of the road for the Bucs. I mean, look, they just beat the Panthers in a must-win game 2 weeks ago, 9-0. The Panthers are awful. Like that just happened. Like they just kicked the crap out of the Eagles, but the Eagles are a broken team. That is, I'm shocked Sirianni didn't get fired, and maybe he still will yet. I think he met with the coach today. But that was a team that had just completely quit. So don't fall so in love on that. I really do see this as a steamroll game for the Lions. I think they're going to win by double digits. And Smule must agree with me because that was his other play for the weekend was the Lions -6.
Well, they're on my card too, and I totally agree. The same thing with you. There's 2 teams I think that are feeding off their city's vibe. Buffalo, obviously, because Buffalo loves them, but Detroit and the entire city of Detroit is on board with them. That place is going to be rocking, and I've got them winning money line, covering. I'm betting the over of 49.5, and I'm going with the Iowa connection with Montgomery and Laporta scoring both. And I even have Goff going over 276. That's my big parlay that I've got. And I think I'm fairly confident they're going to roll all over him. I'm with you, though. I think Baker's done great. And I kind of have a soft spot for Baker, right?
I have a huge soft spot for him. I mean, look, here's what the Browns did. The Browns go, we need you to tone down your personality and your attitude and present yourself in a better way. I don't think you did that right, so why don't you get out of here?
Right.
Also, the Cleveland Browns, and the second side of their mouth is, hey, Deshaun Watson, here's $250 million guaranteed. But, Baker, you're we don't like how you present yourself, Baker. That's why Cleveland, you deserve what you got last week.
I'm with you 100%. When they came out and they said we want an adult in the room.
Adult?
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
You brought in Deshaun
Watson. You want an adult in the room.
Got it.
Yeah, like, come on. That was ridiculous. And you know what? They're reaping what they sow. They've got a guaranteed contract. He didn't play that first year. He didn't play hardly at all this year. I mean, you got Joe Flacco off the couch running the offense better than he was.
He didn't. You're exactly right. He didn't play that great when he was in this year either.
No.
I mean, he looked a little off last year. I think everybody's like, okay, maybe it was some rust. He didn't look that great when he played this year either. So they're in a – I mean, what would you rather have? $250 million guaranteed or Baker on like a $15 to $20 million deal right now to have more money to spend? It was bad.
And let me tell you something else. Before that whole thing came out with Watson outside of football, if you remember, he was looking for a way out of Houston. It's like something changed with him. Like he was kind of a malcontent. He didn't want to be in Houston anymore. He was demanding a trade. Like something flipped for him football wise, and I just don't know what it was.
It's, who knows with it. I did have a same game parlay for that game as well. I bought the Lions to -3, Montgomery anytime touchdown. I had Rashard White under 54.5 yards rushing for the Bucs. I'm pretty sure if Detroit's not number 1, they're number 2. So top 1 or 2 in rushing defense. And Tampa has struggled to run the ball all year long anyways, no matter who it's against. Yep. I mean, Aaron Glenn with that defense, they were so bad a year ago that with their personnel and what they have, and this is why he did do a good job. They're still not great, but he basically said, we have to be good at something.
Right.
So they put all their eggs in the basket of, we're going to stop the run this year. You can throw for a bunch of yards against us, but you're not going to run the ball. And that has made them get an identity a little bit defensively. They're still not that great, but they are good at stopping the run. So I do not see him getting over the 54.5 yards. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown over 91.5 yards receiving. And that payout's actually at plus 575.
Wow.
So again, there, Lions -3. David Montgomery, anytime touchdown. Rashard White, under 54.5 yards rushing. And St. Brown, over 91.5 yards receiving, plus 575.
Nice. Great odds.
I feel pretty good about that one. And if you like the teaser I had, too, with the two heavy favorites with the Ravens and San Francisco, I think the Lions are winning. Like I said, you can add them and make that a 3-teamer. You're probably getting plus 70 at that point.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, so that's what that. I maybe see points. I thought about if I had to go one way or the other on this, I would take the over probably. I just, again, I think the run's over for the Bucs there too. I see such a beatdown. This could be like a 35-10 score. I wouldn't be shocked at all about that. And
that would put me 4 points short, Teddy. Let's change that. Let's.
So you do like the over? You do like the over?
I did. I took the Lions over. Yeah, that whole parlay, Lions over 49.5. Yeah. Lions money line, and then Laporta and Montgomery scoring, and then Goff over 276.5 yards.
The Goff line is actually a really good one. I like that one too because he's so good indoors.
Yeah.
I mean, look, his knock on him when he came out was he had like the smallest hands ever taken for a quarterback. And look, he doesn't play well outdoors, but not outdoors. This is in a dome. Much of that reporter's chagrin out of Tampa Bay when she asked a question about, I felt bad for her on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was not cool.
You got to guess that was a local TV station that sent a reporter in there. It wasn't their normal job. And some research was like, it was just a train coming very slowly. Like you could see it. I'm like, don't ask it.
And Bowles was totally cool. I mean, he could have really ripped her and he didn't. And he did a good job.
Can you imagine if that got asked to like Belichick?
Yeah.
Or
my God.
Sirianni, somebody like that. They had to lay it into her. Bowles is a super nice guy.
Right. Yeah. Well, and speaking of Goff, same thing with him and Baker. Like he kind of got shuttled out of LA and, cast off. Nobody wanted him, whatever. That's why, I mean, I know they're a rival, but man, I would do anything to have Dan Campbell as my coach of the Bears.
He's got to cheer for.
And you talk about somebody that loves his players and talks about his players, and he's like, hey, you're good enough for fucking Detroit. That's what he said. So,
well, I mean, it wasn't they kind of want to get rid of him. They sent him out and a first round pick. And a first round pick with that too. Like you got to get him out of here. You got to take him. So that was a big. Felt good for him on that too. Him and Baker both like it was a cast off deal, and one of them's going to the NFC Championship game.
Yep,
crazy. So, but I do think it's going to be the Lions. Moving to the big show, the big game with it seems like these two are just on a collision course. We know those two and Burrow every single year. With Burrow hurt this year, obviously that didn't happen. But this is Patrick Mahomes' first game on the road in the playoffs.
That's crazy. I did not realize that. That's crazy.
So that is people's like, well, it's not a big deal. Look, he is still Patrick Mahomes. It's not like it's going to be this big shining lights for him. But I tell you what, playing on the road in the playoffs is a different animal. He's never had to do it.
Yep.
And guess what? Buffalo's crazy. Buffalo's crazy. Those people are nuts. The Bills Mafia is absolutely nuts. They have like 60-year-old women jumping through tables lit on fire outside, and it's just normal behavior.
They had another video today of people lining up at the stadium to go shovel the stadium out again today. And I mean, it was a line. You'd have thought it was a line to get into, I don't know, the biggest premiere of a movie, a Taylor Swift concert. I mean, it was crazy.
I mean,
I'm like, that's insane.
It's absolutely insane.
And I love it. And I absolutely love it.
I absolutely love it too. But so I'm actually love the Bills though. I think just they turned the corner. I absolutely love the Bills here. It's hard to bet against Mahomes in the playoffs, but they're just not right offensively this year. And look, here's the deal. Josh Allen is the reason they win games, and he's also the reason they can lose games. He is the reason for everything they do, win or lose. But if he can play clean football, I actually think they control the game and win by a touchdown.
So I'm so confident that now, Teddy, I don't know what the hell I'm doing on this app half the time. And I've learned a lot from you guys. I actually went and searched to learn how to play an alternate spread. That's how confident I am in this game. I took the Bills and played an alternate spread that they'll cover by 10.
Wow.
With a Josh Allen anytime touchdown, and a Pacheco, I think, will get a garbage touchdown somewhere. But here's what I think. I think Josh Allen and everybody else is remembering that little comment that Mahomes made at the end of that game, making an excuse for why they lost. And I think they're going to stick it to them and show them there's no doubt we're a better team and we're going to beat them. And I'm with you. Those guys on the road, first time Mahomes is on the road, that's got to be something. That's got to be something.
It is something. It absolutely is something. And it's just, Josh Allen has a big hurdle to climb. There's a bunch of these Big Ten quarterbacks, and he hasn't had his moment yet. This is to get through Mahomes in the playoff. That's just something to check off in the box, because these two are going to be compared to each other the rest of their careers. This is a Marino Elway type deal. It's going to be that way. And this is the guys.
Brady Manning. Yep.
This is exactly
Brady Manning, all those guys. Yep. And man, you look at the AFC, they are just stacked over there with quarterbacks. Well, Stroud now.
It was already
Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah. And Burrow. I mean,
you get Burrow back next year.
You could slot any four of those teams into the Super Bowl and probably be right between Cincinnati, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Baltimore. It's crazy. And again, as a Bears fan, it just pisses me off.
Well, I tell you what, we can jump in your Bears a little bit here too. I do have a DraftKings daily and some stuff too. But so before we go ahead and wrap that up, we'll talk about your Bears a little bit. But why don't we go ahead and kick it to our sponsors here quick, and we'll come back and wrap some stuff up with some Bears talk.
Awesome.
Why take the best corn in the world and make it into fuel when you could make it into whiskey? That's the question that launched Revelton, Iowa's most visible and fastest growing distillery. Owners Rob and Christy Taylor embrace the grain-to-glass philosophy, sourcing ingredients locally and overseeing on-premises production and bottling at their facility in Osceola. One sip, and you'll agree that Revelton's handcrafted whiskeys, gins, and vodkas are the best you've ever tasted. And with the launch of their rye whiskey, made with 100% Iowa-grown rye and corn, and their new bourbon coming soon, there's more Revelton to love than ever. Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. The great thing about working from home is working from home. The worst thing is working from home, especially for face-to-face collaborations with customers and coworkers. And let's face it, coffee shop meetings are neither private nor professional. So skip the trip to Starbs and investigate Gravitate Co-working Space. For more than 10 years, Gravitate has provided large and small office and conference spaces perfect for hosting meetings, workshops, or other events, as well as private phone booths for confidential conversations. Plus, all spaces include secure fiber internet, free coffee, and access to a kitchenette. All you need is your laptop. Gravitate does the rest. And renting space at Gravitate is surprisingly affordable. An hour of office space costs about the same as venti caramel macchiatos and breakfast sandwiches for two. Daily and monthly rates are also available with no long-term commitment. Learn more at gravitatecoworking.com. That's gravitatecoworking.com.
Welcome back again to the Ball Don't Lie podcast, a divisional round special. Playoffs are here. We are in the middle of it. Thanks again to Chris Shipley for joining me today because Justin Smool is out. While we're away there too, we will get to your Bears, I promise. I looked to see what I made this bet last week too. I went to check it again. I looked at some futures just for this year to win the Super Bowl yet.
Yep.
Buffalo is still plus 500 to win the Super Bowl.
Really?
Really. And I think
wow.
that's really good value. I think San Fran's at plus 175. The value's not there. Play the individual games on that. But what I like even better than that with some odds is an exact result of San Francisco over the Bills is plus 800. So I actually really like both of those plays to get just some value. Throw some pizza money, whatever out there. Those are two really good odds I like, just checking the break. The Bills at plus 500 and San Francisco over the Bills at plus 800. I don't have that one bet yet. I will when we get done.
Okay, well, I'll go search for that.
Yeah, I was a little shocked at those odds.
Yeah.
So I play. My wife's addicted to this. Actually, she does this every week. If you play DraftKings daily, you pick your fantasy team daily. It's pretty fun. I did put a team together this week, and I'll just run through that really quick as well. I went with Brock Purdy at the quarterback, David Montgomery at running back, Isaiah Pacheco at running back. Then I went with Debo at wide receiver, and I went with Shakir from Buffalo. You get pretty good value with him, especially with Gabe Davis is not going to play again. He had a really big week last week, and Josh Allen has mentioned all year he kind of likes him anyway, but he's super cheap at only $3,800. So I took Shakir at wide receiver. Then I went with the Wicks kid from Green Bay at receiver. And then I went with Isaiah Likely at tight end. I love him, especially when Andrews isn't playing. It looks like he's in practice. I'm not sure if he got cleared to play this week or not.
I think I saw they're not clearing him, and
not clearing him. Then I love Likely then this week at tight end. Then I went with Nico Collins at my flex, and then with the Bills defense, and that spent all my money I could evenly there. So again, Purdy, David Montgomery, Isaiah Checo, Debo, Shakir, Wicks, Likely, Nico Collins, and the Bills defense. So the good part about being a Bears fan is you guys have done some pretty good work here in the last 2 years.
Look,
no one was thinking about taking Stroud 1 last year. Now, if you just would have taken Stroud number 1, you may have been over it and done whatever. But I think Fields came back this year and did enough to still garner enough interest that maybe you can't get a 1 this year, not an early one, but maybe you can get a future one for him, and for sure a 2 and a 3 in this year's draft. I think you get like a 3 in this year's draft and maybe even a future 1 from like Atlanta. I don't think you can get the 8th pick from them, but they're in a spot too to where I saw they're interviewing with Cliff Kingsbury. I don't hate him as a coordinator, and he has such good ties with USC and Caleb's dad apparently really likes him. Yeah, as he has said in the past, he wasn't going to go to Chicago, but if that's a thing there too. What do you want to see happen?
Well, so now that the season's over and the honeymoon, I shouldn't use that term. I rooted for Fields all year. You just love the kid. Mm-hmm. I wanted him to succeed. And at the end of the season, I was 100% on board with keeping Fields. But then I've just kind of listened to some of the outside noise, right? And I don't know that I'm super excited about Caleb Williams. He makes me nervous. He seems that I don't know a thing about Drake May. So
Drake May I love.
All I know is he's a North Carolina quarterback, and the last one we took wasn't super great. So, but speaking of that, I watched something today. I watched a podcast today, and Spice Adams, who used to play for the Bears, read off the stats. Trubisky in his time, same amount of time that he's been there as Fields, had a better record, better passing yards, and went to the playoffs twice. And I hated Trubisky. Now, why do I love Fields? Like, that kind of opened my eyes up a little bit. And you know what? Poles has drafted good.
It's Fields hard to argue.
He was not his draft choice.
Look what he traded Bryce Young for.
Yeah.
That's what you did. You basically traded Bryce Young. You got a legitimate wide receiver 1 in DJ Moore.
Yep.
And you have maybe the most sought after spot in recent memory because of what this quarterback draft is like this year.
So I think
you have to trade Fields from a non-Bears fan is that I think you kind of know what you have with him.
Yep.
And you got to make a financial decision on him this offseason.
Yes. Right.
So I think try to get a future 1.
Yep.
And then, a 3 maybe this year or something too. Or take the 2 and a 3 this year. 2 and whatever. Make sure you get a 2. You restart your clock because what happens if Caleb is what he's supposed to be?
Yep. And you pass on him again after passing on Mahomes, after passing on Lamar Jackson.
And you know what? And if Caleb doesn't want to play for you, but he wants to play for, say, Washington, who's sitting at number 2, or New England at number 3.
Yep.
Awesome.
It's a king's ransom.
Because guess what? I think Jaden Daniels is really good too, along with Drake May.
I do too.
So if you get any one of those 3 guys, and if you trade back to 2 or 3 and you get to add, you can probably get a future 1 from one of those teams to get a guy like that too.
Yeah. The farther I've moved away from the end of the season, the more I feel more comfortable about trading Fields.
Oh, now, and by the way, you're also picking 9th.
Right. Now, if we're keeping him, and we get a king's ransom for the number 1. Okay, I'll take that too. Right now, let's load up. Let's take a stud defensive rusher. Let's take Marvin Harrison Jr. with a maybe the second or third pick if somebody moves up. Let's take that tight end from Georgia. If we get another late round, first round pick, I'm all okay with that, right? But the thought of restarting the clock now is starting to work on me. My only hesitation is I don't know if I can trust Caleb Williams.
What about this? What if they, do enough with the draft and you take the king's ransom at, 1 or whatever, and you move back, you still have the 9th pick too. So what if you take a Hall for the 1, future and all that stuff too, and then you can still, again, get back up to 3, 4, whatever. If there's another quarterback there that you like, it doesn't, just because you don't pick 1 at quarterback doesn't mean you still can't go quarterback even at 9 this year.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels might be there at 9.
He might not be, but you for sure can take the 9 pick and one of the picks you just acquired and probably move up to get somebody with like Arizona at 4.
Yep,
they're sticking with
and see where that draft is going. Who knows? You never know.
This is as excited as I've been for a draft in a long time, just because you don't see this many quarterbacks at this level and position players. I mean, it'll probably break a record for how many are taking the first round this year. I think they'll probably be over half.
So too. Yeah. So. Yeah, because next year's not going to be
it. Not compared to this year. It certainly isn't. I mean, you're looking at we'll see what Dion's kid does and some of that stuff too. I mean, Quinn Ewers, but I mean, those guys were probably going to be late first round or early second round picks this year, and that's who's coming back as maybe the top guys next year. I think. I mean, look, who didn't do himself any favors? I could have said maybe you take like Penix at 9, but boy, under pressure in the national championship game.
He reverted back to Indiana.
He put some bad film out there, which, you feel bad for that kid because he's an older guy too. He played 6 years.
Right.
Nick Bolt did.
Yep. So,
it'll be interesting. Your Bears, I mean, just for that part of it, make you excited at least a little bit there too. I mean,
yeah, it gives me a little juice through the off season and something to look forward to, the draft and so on. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. We drafted Fields. I within 5 minutes went and ordered his jersey. I was that excited because I was like, we finally drafted a stud quarterback, and that's why I think I've just rooted for him to just make it. And I just see glimpses where he can be great. And then I look and I go, how can you hold the ball that long and get? I mean, have you not learned this yet? You're 3 years in, you're still holding the ball too long.
And that's why I think because since you're still just not sure yet, like he's not a bust. He's not a bust. Like he's still going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He still is that. It's just, man, I don't think he's a top 10 type quarterback guy in the league. He's not going to be that ever. He's a guy you can win with. But if you do it, you could have had Mahomes when you took Trubisky. Yep. If you knowingly maybe don't do that again, I don't think. I mean, the Bears are starving for a franchise quarterback so bad. I mean, forever. Yep. The only franchise to never have somebody throw for 4,000 yards. In today's NFL, that's almost unheard of.
Listen, their top quarterback yardage wise thrown is Eric Kramer. That's
number 2. I remember Eric Kramer.
Eric Kramer. So,
man,
how's that? Jay Cutler doesn't even own that record.
That actually shocks me that he never threw for 4,000 yards.
I know, right?
He was yellow.
I know, right?
Crazy.
God, it's and you look back and how much I fucking hated Cutler, and now I look back fondly and go, man, he could.
Man, I loved him when we drafted him, and then McDaniels came in and ran him out of town, and maybe it's a good thing.
I'll never forget. I had a good buddy of mine. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, but he was a huge Broncos fan. And man, did I lay some shit down when we traded for him. And his only response was, he's like, 3 games in, you're going to hate that guy. Well, guess what? It didn't take 3 games because his opening game against Green Bay, he threw 3 interceptions in that game. And I texted him. I was like, it didn't take me 3 games. I hate him already.
That's funny.
So
that is so funny. We'll run through here and kind of go through. Tell me if I missed something on your plays. I had you for 4 plays here, and then maybe there's more. I had Green Bay plus 9.5. Lions minus 6, Lions over at 49.5, and the Bills minus 2.5. Did you have any?
And I took the Bills at minus 10 on an alternate line.
Alternate Bills minus 10. I'll leave that in your props there too, not your official.
There you go.
That's right. We got 4 plays in the official record there. Smool had 2 plays with the 49ers minus 9.5, the Lions minus 6, and I had 2 official plays as well with the Lions minus 6, The Bills -2.5. Well, I think that'll do it for us this week, unless you got anything else to add before we get out of here. You good? Everything good?
Nope, we're good.
Good to go. Well, thanks for joining me today, bud. Thanks for filling in, and hopefully we gave you some winners this week. We'll see you next week. Hopefully the same time. We'll let you know a little earlier. I think Smool's back. So, as always, thanks for listening. Cash that ticket.